Hi, we are Team 3, and our team's presentation will cover the topic on emotional intelligence, quotient, and workplace, what the literature says and how the scholarly works can be practically applied. Our teams include our team leader, Joshua, the deputy team leader, Chloe, and 3 members, Minnie, Annie, and me, Taurus. Our presentation will be divided into 3 parts. Firstly, I will give a brief introduction on the definitions, background and importance of EI, and then we'll move on to the theories, supported by 2 models, and moving on to the instruments to measure EI. After that, we'll give 2 applications in real-life example for the industry of nursing and business leaders. And after that, we'll give the obstacles and suggestions on ways to improve. Finally, I will give a conclusion of what we have covered. Now, let's move on to the introduction. I will talk more about the history, definition, and importance of emotional intelligence. The concept of emotional strength was first introduced by Abraham Maslow in the 1950s, and with time flies, emotional intelligence developed to be the ability to understand, use, and manage your own emotions in a positive ways to relieve stress, communicate effectively, and emphasize with others, overcome challenges, and diffuse conflict. And according to Galagobi et al., there are 2 dimensions of EI. First is the ability to recognize feeling and emotions, and the second is the ability to use the information to resolve conflict. There are 3 importance of EI in workplace. Firstly, is understand non-verbal communication, which a worker can fix a situation before it becomes a problem. And second is to be self-aware of personal emotion, which workers can adjust their behavior before it becomes an issue. And thirdly is to improve efficiencies, which understanding of others' emotion can allow workers to make decisions with ease. And next is to further their career, as to advance to a leadership role or earn a title promotion. And lastly is the encouragement on developing interpersonal skills, which is benefits the displaying expressive motivation, empathy, responsibility, and teamwork. And it is believed that the EI is a useful tool in workplace, and my team will now describe more on EI in terms of self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. And now I will pass my time to Annie.
Now I'm going to talk about the literature review. I'm going to talk about Meyer, Sullivan, and Caruso's EI ability models. According to Frotus 2017, this model proposed that we should use information obtained from our perceived understanding of emotions and our ability to manage them to aid our thinking and decision making. They suggest that the ability and skills of EI can be divided into 4 branches. The first branch is the ability to perceive emotion, which is ability to identify emotion, feeling, and thoughts. The second is using emotion to facilitate thoughts. Emotion can be used as add to judgment and memory. The third one is understanding emotion and employ emotional knowledge. It is the ability to label emotions and recognize relationship between them. The last one is effective regulation emotions to promote emotional growth. It is the ability to effectively monitor emotions in self and others. Let's talk about Gorman's view towards EQ. According to the book Gorman 1996, he thinks that people must first understand the importance of EQ and change the traditional concept that only value IQ in the past and high IQ equals to high achievement. Furthermore, he concludes for a scientific argument that EQ is the most important survival ability of human beings. At most 20% of the life achievement can be attributed to IQ, and other 80% are affected by other factors, especially EQ. The EQ ability of leadership, according to Gorman, are the most important factor impacting the success or failure of organization leadership. Leaders have the greatest power to impact everyone's emotions in any human group, and only the most remarkable leaders can experience this. This is common CI performance model in 1998 with 5 domains. According to Davis 2021, the first one is self-awareness, which is the ability to detect and understand emotions. The second one is self-regulation, which involves the appropriate expression of emotions. The third one is social skill. This aspect of EI refers to how successfully you interact with others. The fourth one is empathy, which refers to being able to understand how other people are feeling and responding appropriately to other people based on their emotions. The last one is motivation. It is defined as a person's desire to achieve personal needs, goals, rather than external benefits such as money, fame, and recognition. From this model, we can know that which component we should improve in order to increase our EQ, since emotional intelligence helps us to build stronger relationships, succeed at school and work, and achieve career goals. This model is redesigned by Gorman in 2002 with 4 domains. According to Fortas 2017, EI is a set of skills and competencies that help managers and leaders perform better in the workplace. Those skills and competencies focus on 4 capacities: self-awareness, relationship management, self-management, and social awareness. These 4 EI competencies are the foundation of 12 EI subskills. Leaders must develop a balance of strengths across the array of EI competencies in order to flourish. They will achieve outstanding commercial achievement if they do so. Now I will pass the time to Chloe.
I will first talk about the corresponding instruments to measure the emotional intelligence of the 2 models respectively. Then, I will present the first applications of emotional intelligence in the workplace. For the Mayer-Salovey model, an ability-based test was introduced, named Mayer-Salovey-Caruso Emotional Intelligence Test, in short, MSCEIT. While for Goleman's emotional intelligence theory, Goleman and Boyces introduced an instrument called Emotional and Social Competency Inventory, in short, ESCI. The Mayer-Salovey-Caruso Emotional Intelligence Test consists of 141 items, and it is divided into 4 branches: perceptions of emotions, use of emotions to facilitate thinking, understanding emotions, and management of emotions. The picture below are samples of the test, extracted from Ball et al. In 2010, showing how the 4 branches questions look like. The Emotional and Social Competency Inventory is a self-assessing survey. We will focus on the ESCI used in business organization. It consists of 68 items to assess 12 competencies of an individual. Participants will be asked to assess how frequently and consistently an individual demonstrates the behavior described by each item on a 5-point scale ranging as never, rarely, sometimes, often, or consistently. After completing the 2 tests, a feedback report will be provided, and it will benchmark the participant scores against a norm group to determine the emotional intelligence level of an individual. The first application would be in the medical industry. Use nursing as an example. Company et al. In 2014 mentioned an essential duties of nurses is emotional labor. Emotional labor is defined as the suppression of nurses' true feelings to create a caring and safe atmosphere for clients, which refers to patients. Nurses are expected to be able to control and manage their emotions to maintain professionalism and present a positive outlook, and this would require high emotional intelligence to do so. Company et al. In 2014 also point out that nurses with high abilities to regulate their emotions demonstrate better well-being and lower levels of job stress, which implies the importance of emotional intelligence. In Mayer-Salovey model, it is first perceiving emotions. Nurses with high emotional intelligence would be good at noticing the patient's body language and facial expressions. Then, they will look for why the patient has such expressions, which involve thinking and problem-solving. Later, they may interact with patients to ensure they don't misunderstand their feelings and to provide the best cater to the patient's needs. And finally, the nurses can respond appropriately and help modify patients' emotional status and alleviate their anxiety. Ball et al. In 2010 stated the real-life example reported by an interviewer. The nurse mentioned incontinence, which most likely happens on elderly. The patient will feel helpless and anxious in that situation. The nurse does not only perform duties of butt wiping, but also has to be sensitive to the patient's facial expressions and consider the personal and embarrassing circumstances of patients by curtaining the bed.
The second application is for business leaders. Applying Goleman's emotional intelligence theory. First, self-awareness. If everyone understands their own strengths and weaknesses, they can learn more effectively. For example, a prominent department store chain's manager has reservations about the company's impending personal shopper service, despite the fact that neither the work team nor the boss had asked for her input. She voiced her concerns and that she was being emotional. The manager undertook an examination of her feelings, and a week later, she actively endorsed the idea. People usually appreciate and respect honest people, no matter what you are. In the company, you can ask others with an open mind. Besides, self-management. Self-regulation has a trickle-down effect. If the boss is calm, his subordinates don't want to look frisky. Provide better working environment is one of the important things. The environment in the entire organization is naturally positive if the senior executives don't have too many bad feelings. According to the exhaustion, emotional competence accounts for nearly 4/5 of the difference in increased productivity and success in top leadership roles. Leaders should focus on practical matters and are less likely to deliberately falsely report profits, overstate expenses, or misappropriate cash, abuse their powers for their own purpose. Moreover, social awareness. According to Indra, former chairperson and CEO of PepsiCo, I will express my concern because I hope all people can do well in what they do. Leaders should consider the feelings of employees. For example, after the merger of the two large securities companies, the functions of some positions in all departments were duplicated. One of the department managers called the subordinates to talk. His speech was very frustrating, emphasizing how many people would be laid off soon. The conversation of another department manager to his subordinates was quite different. He confessed his worries and troubles and promised to keep his colleagues informed and treat everyone fairly. The second managers has always made employees feel at ease. Not only have the best talent stayed, but the productivity of the department has not diminished a little. Finally, relationship management. People who are smart but have low EI are rarely stupid enough to make big mistakes, but their development will be limited, and eventually they may can't keep their job. And Goleman's book points out that training leaders and employees' EQ can create higher performance. It's like we have a good president for turnover, but he often scolded and humiliates his subordinates. Later, the publishing company was acquired, and the new boss replaced the president on the grounds that he couldn't work with other people. It is really important that a leader can work with others as a team. And therefore, we can see how Goleman's EI theory apply for business leaders and the importance of EI in workplace.
Next, I will talk about the obstacles and ways to improve emotional intelligence regarding the workplace. There are some obstacles to implementing emotional intelligence in the workplace. It can be improved, but like other traits and skills, it has a limit that is likely determined in part by genetics. Emotional intelligence is not something that everyone can achieve. Furthermore, some unethical employees may use their emotional intelligence to manipulate, deceive, and utilize their coworkers and the subordinates. Here are two directions of how to improve the emotional intelligence in workplace. One is for yourself and the other one is for the team. There are many steps to improving your emotional intelligence, but learning how to manage your stress is the first and foremost one. Social skills is very important to develop good relationships with people in your workplace. Also, self-control is essential before developing your social skills. Next, you should first considering the consequences before you act. When an emotionally charged event happens, you should pause for a moment before responding. Everyone will be able to think more pragmatically in order to calm their emotions as a result of this. Also, it's crucial that you are sociable and open to others in your workplace. To respond to other people's experiences, you must first connect with them. A good leader must recognize and resolve any conflict arising. Otherwise, major issues such as loss of productivity and revenue, resentment, and misunderstanding can give rise. What's more, any business will experience changes. Whether the change is favorable to you or not, you must learn how to deal with any new situations and stop staying on your fear of change. Finally, it's critical to understand how to approach others and what to do when confronted with negative emotions, and it's entirely possible that you will encounter them at work. To improve your emotional intelligence in the workplace, you should avoid some personality traits. Firstly, people may gossip to make themselves feel better. However, sometimes it can be a complaint to others. So, you must hold yourself not to talk behind someone's back. Spreading rumors can not only break the trust but also start harassment. It may result decline in productivity, increase anxiety and tensions. Next, whether things goes wrong in your workplace, you should stop constantly shifting the responsibilities away from you and onto others. Also, people should not exaggerate in order to maintain any relationships, and emotionally intelligent people should not boast about their achievements. Furthermore, some people's aggressive intention and behavior may hide a charming and amiable exterior. Finally, you should not be a self-absorbed and prone to exaggerations in your workplace. To work as a team, firstly, you must work on developing your own emotional intelligence. Your team will become more emotionally intelligent if you become a leader that they can respect and rally behind. Next, if you know your team members well, you can see what they can bring to the table outside of their traditional job role or title. Also, stress can lead to your employees getting burnout and harm their health. Because of this, your team should be able to handle situations such as deadlines and frustrations with other coworkers in a healthy and effective way. Lastly, you should also provide a chance for your employees to express their views. Also be sure to inquire about and support the opinions of your team members who are quiet.
Thank you, and let's move on to the conclusion. To conclude, our team's presentation has covered few parts in related to EI. Firstly, we have given a brief introduction of EI which cover the history, attributes, and importance, and followed by the two models related to EI. Furthermore, we have provided the instruments to test EI, named as the MSCEIT and ESDI test. And we have also provided application in the industry of nursing and business leaders. And lastly, we have provided problems and suggestions to improve, and it's one of our presentation. Here is our reference list. If you have any question, please feel free to ask. Thank you.